So the next 2 weeks I want to talk about kind of how companies, as they grow and evolve, the needs that they have and the kind of the direction that they take and the needs that they have to address change, as well as the type of leadership and the type of people that they're going to have to be focused on. And so we've talked a lot about kind of stair-step growth. And it's really kind of the same thing, because when entrepreneurs start, they've got this idea that they got an idea that's going to be all illuminating, of it's going to be wonderful, it's going to be great. But in reality, when you first start out, you're really just kind of trying to figure out what to do, and you're really just kind of searching for your business model and trying to figure out what's the best way to go about it. And then as you continue to grow, you're going to continue to have different stair steps and along with that. So this brilliant idea that you have when you're first starting out, you're really, if you think about it, when you wake up in the morning and it's still dark, and and maybe when you come home late at night and it's really dark, and you kind of stumble around your room and you can't see anything, but you kind of know where things are, but you bump into things, especially if it's coming home late at night. You're probably definitely bumping into things. But it's really dark, and there's no real light on in that room. So the only thing that you can go by is your vision and your imagination. And that's how you have to imagine where everything is and just kind of search it out. And that's the same way when you're first starting your business. It's like you're groping around in a dark room, trying to feel out where things are, and you end up hitting your shin and tripping over things. And more often than not, this is when you're first starting out, you've got 0 to 3 employees, and revenue, your pre-revenue up to about $250,000. And so after a while, you start kind of stumbling around, and then you kind of flip on the night light, and you've got a little bit of light then. So you can start to kind of see vague outlines of things, and you can really start to kind of see where the big stuff is, but you still trip and stumble and fall over the little things. But this is when you start kind of accelerating your business from the standpoint of you can start to actually form ideas about what's there and what you're working on and what's working and what's not. And so this is when you're kind of 4 to 12 employees, 250 to $1 million in revenue, that you're starting to kind of figure it out, but this is where it's really just the big stuff. The next kind of iteration you have is you find a little, you find a lamp sitting on the table, and you can turn on the lamp, and you can start to see a lot more of the things. And so now you can start to see some little things, you see some big things, and you can really get a feel for what's happening with your business. And what ends up happening is each time you kind of go through one of these stair-step evolutions is you see more things, which is good, but you see more things that you need to fix. And you can start to see more incremental things that are really important. And this type of really time period is if you've got kind of 13 to 100 employees. This is where you might be from 1 to 100 to about 100 million. I'm sorry, 1 to 10 million is when you're starting to kind of really hone in on your business model and figure out where those things are. And this is when you're really starting to kind of grow your business. And this is where you're This is where you're starting to build your business. Is when you're starting to really hone in on your business model, and you're really starting to figure out who your target market is, really starting to kind of identify what your marketing strategies are. All of those things you're starting to figure out, and you're starting to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and really starting to fine-tune those things. The next iteration then after that is the growing aspect. And so when you start to really focus on growing your business is when you finally find the light switch on the wall and you can flip it on, and now you can see all the little things. So now is when all the cockroaches go scattering if you're in a not clean place. But that's where you really start to find all the little things that you've got to fix. Otherwise, it can really be destructive for your business. And so this is really 100 employees to 250 employees, and you're talking kind of 10 to 100 million in revenue. And so this is where you're starting to, if in the building phase is really where you're kind of in your region and maybe starting to expand. The growing aspect is when you start looking at going national, and you're starting to look at major markets and really making those expansions. The last kind of huge phase is kind of your expansion phase. And so this is like a floodlight. And so this is where, if you're kind of a publicly traded company, you have to file all the things with the government. You have to have all the things with the SEC, all the things that with your stockholders. So everything you do has to be completely and totally transparent, completely and totally by the book. And you have to have all those things all buttoned up. So this is 250 plus, 100 million plus. So these are where your companies are starting to be nationally known, recognizable, huge, big brands. And so the thing is like at each phase, you're going to make your business better and better, but you're also at each phase, you're going to realize that there's much different things that you have to attack. It's kind of like when we talked about the systems wavelength, is each time you can kind of refine it more and more, is you can drill down to little bitty pieces, but that also means that there's more and more pieces. And so we've seen this a lot of times. We've talked about, every year to 18 months we have to kind of revisit our workflow. And so where you can see kind of the evolution there is, 18 months ago when we're looking at workflow, it might only have 15 or 20 steps, where now we're drilling down to where we have 150 steps. And so you're going to see that roll out in all aspects of your business. As you continue to grow, you're going to get more and more detailed, and you're also going to have more and more specialists that focus on specific things, which means you can drill down into details that early on you just can't even understand, more or less do something about. And so the other component of this is, as the businesses change in complexity and continue to grow and you're focusing on these things, there's kind of this kind of segmentation kind of comes together, and then there's kind of different levels of leadership that, from an organizational standpoint, that you have to focus on. So here at the beginning, it's all about having a leader and a leadership team that it can be good starters. People that can really have high energy and get things going. From a building perspective, that's when you need to have people that are builders, growers, and expanders. And so next week we'll talk specifically about the personality traits that go along with this. But from a characterization standpoint, you're really kind of looking kind of like a Tasmanian devil here at this first phase. From the building perspective, you need a builder that's kind of like Professor X, of MacGyver here. From growers' perspective, you need Professor X from the X-Men, and from expanders, somebody like Alexander the Great. And so next week we'll talk about kind of the personality traits that go along with each one of these segments, and why it's important to have the leadership and leadership team to be focusing on these types of skill sets to address these specific types of needs at each stage of the business.